All right. Health, happiness, peace, goodwill, church, the Bible, cats, dogs, love, peace.
All right, it's been 12 seconds.
Okay. Cock, balls.
Pussy,
Anime titties.
tits, ass, anal,
Welcome to the first episode of Castaway Anyway. I'm your host, Crunchy Bagels.
and I'm Neon Manta.
We can reverse it now because it's going on my channel.
Yeah. We decided to be like, hey, like we want to talk about stuff, but so it's not everything we can talk about can fit into the anime podcast. So let's just we talk in Discord regardless. So let's just turn on the goddamn Audacity and just talk about shit.
Pretty much, what if a random voice call in my Discord server were turned into a video?
Well, that can never see the light of day because
well,
if Schizo gets in there, he's just gonna say the N-word.
Not Schizo. No, Schizo doesn't even talk in voice call.
Oh,
you're
okay,
thinking
wait,
about
what's his name? Ultra?
Greg, Ultra Seraph. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
He's an interesting fellow, to say the least.
And if you want to join the Crunchy Bagels Discord, you can do so by joining his Patreon, linked in below.
Or hope I make it public, but probably not anytime soon. I don't know. So in the meantime, give me money.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
more you
trying
give him
to
money,
say.
The more money I can steal from him when he's not looking.
Bro's gonna hack into my Patreon.
Well, we're here today because we're like, hey, we have stuff we want to talk about, and let's just talk about it in a podcast format, in a shorter form podcast than the 2 to 3 hours that Castaway Anime can go up to.
Literal 5-hour monstrosities on that channel. I think the best place to start would be, considering it's on both our minds, we both finished Shinkai month recently, and I'm putting out a video about Suzume. Does Makoto Shinkai only know how to make one movie?
I saw a tweet from one of the Friends Without Benefits Let's Players that I follow, who said that it's incredible that Makoto Shinkai can just make the same movie 3 times in a row, and everyone will still eat it up regardless. And then it did got me thinking, because I was looking in the comments about that. My knee-jerk reaction was like, he doesn't make the same movie every time. For one thing, Weathering with You is a much better movie than Your Name and Suzume, so there's that. But then I was looking in the comments, and then I was stopping to think about, it's like, I suppose if you break down the elements, he likes to recycle a lot of elements to his movies, where there's usually a romance. There's, at least recently, if we take the last 3 movies into account, there's usually a romance there between a boy and a girl. There's a supernatural element, and there's as is always in Shinkai films, a relationship fatalized by distance in some way.
And more specifically on the supernatural element, it's always a supernatural disaster. There's something magical that is threatening to destroy, in Suzume's case, the entire world, and in Your Name, just a town. So I guess we've been steadily escalating the threat. First a town, then
Your
Tokyo,
Name was just some
the
fuck
world.
off village, then the entire city of Tokyo, and then the planet. So I'm looking forward to the next Shinkai movie in 3 to 4 years, where the entire universe is gonna be at
It's
stake.
just gonna be like Gurren Lagann at that point. She's just gonna become the next Gainax.
I'd watch Makoto Shinkai Gurren Lagann. You kidding me?
I would too. I'm not saying that's anything close to a bad thing. And I definitely see the similarities between his more recent films. I mean, he's always been accused of reciting the same theme over and over again, and I actually kind of admire his dedication to it. He's just always talking about these romances, fatalized by whatever they are. And, it's clearly something that he's passionate about, and he's, trying to get to the core of that idea. As someone who pretty much every story concept I come up with also has the same themes, I understand that drive to just make as many pieces of art about the same concept with the same style and tone as possible to just hone it and get to the bottom of how exactly you feel. And there's actually a little tidbit of an interview that I read on Makoto Shinkai Suzume while making that video that I think is relevant here, which is that Makoto Shinkai, Neon, you're gonna see that this. I was going to tell you this ages ago, but I kept on forgetting, and I'm so glad we're recording when I get to tell you that Suzume was gonna be a Yuri.
I did hear about that. I did.
Okay, dang it, I wasn't the first one. Yeah, I would have popped off, but
yeah, I heard conflicting things though, because I thought when that someone said it was gonna be a Yuri, Makoto Shinkai was like, oh no, it's gonna be more like a sisterly love. It's gonna like two girls who like love each other as sisters and not as lovers.
I'm actually I am getting vague flashbacks now that you say that to someone saying that. Admittedly, I don't think actually for that one I don't think I read the original interview, but I did read the original interview of Makoto Shinkai saying that he wanted to move on for like ever since Your Name. He felt like he had said all he needed to say for the relationships fatalized by distance, but that in Suzume's case, keeping it the producers basically said, look, this is what you're known for.
I did hear that there was some executive meddling being like, hey, like Your Name made like a bajillion skillion dollars, so what if we just keep I guess that does kind of help give credence to the question, is Makoto Shinkai just making the same movie over and over when he's just straight up said, yeah, executives have been telling me to keep doing the things that made Your Name one of the most successful Japanese movies of all time. Super successful.
See, the thing is, it's like such a general premise, right? Like, there's a relationship. Okay, that's like everything. That's like half of all fiction right there. There's the supernatural. Okay, that's also like half of fiction. Like slight exaggeration, but it's a very general premise. And although they do hit similar beats, at the end of the day, I think each of Makoto Shinkai's recent films, and all of them in general, have their own things that make them distinct and worth talking about, even if for some of the earlier ones, it may not be for the greatest reasons.
I mean, it is worth noting that of the 7 feature films that Shinkai's made, only 2 of them are like don't feature any supernatural elements whatsoever.
Yeah, that is worth noting, and the dude clearly has a style, especially as of late. His movies are like the same sort of like style and tone of art, animation, direction, even the comedy and the dialogue. He's very clearly honed it to a point where it's like, okay, I know what kind of film I want to make. But at the same time, I think they're all sufficiently different, because I was seeing some ANN reviews and some people on Mal that were like, bro, this is just Your Name but worse. And I'm like, actually, there's like
pushing up the glasses.
I have glasses, so it works. It's like I think they're all sufficiently different, right? Like, Suzume has a very, even though Suzume and Weathering with You are both about, these kids that go on their own, mostly bereft of like the influence of responsible adults or their parents and whatnot. Even then, they both have a bit of different tones to them, I'd say. Whereas Weathering with You starts off a lot more serious with the way it portrays that. Suzume from the very beginning of the film is like incredibly lighthearted, at least in terms of the adventure aspect. So even there's a difference, and I think that gives both of the films a distinct texture from each other.
I agree on that sentiment. It did get me thinking this whole conversation that how much how fucking sick nasty Garden of Words is, and how I do kind of wonder like what my biggest issue with Garden of Words, that's only like 45 minutes long, and so I would just imagine that movie, but like with an extra like but double the length, like a 90-minute Garden of Words, or at least Shinkai could write and make a movie of that caliber, but with a 90-minute runtime and just a grounded realistic story with no supernatural elements whatsoever. That now that he's got become a way better storyteller since 5 centimeters per second, he could and have the benefit of having a much honed craft when it comes to the visuals. Even though Garden of Words looks like it hasn't aged a fucking day, I can just only imagine what Garden of Words but twice as long could look like.
Well, that does sound sick, but I'm one of the weirdos who says Suzume clears Garden of Words.
Well, see, you're just stupid.
I like
I will say,
Suzume's
though,
tone.
I like Garden of Words everything more. I will say though, if Shinkai's next movie is like the same as recycles the same like key things about there's a relationship, a romantic relationship relationship, and that relationship is fatalized by distance, and there's a supernatural element. Like, there's got to be a stronger hook. I think I'll be more accepting of it if he leans in on the supernatural to the point where it's like either it's gonna be like maybe he channels his he digs up his sci-fi roots from Voices of a Distant Star and the Place Promised in Our Early Days, and maybe like he makes a sci-fi. I feel like that'd be pretty sick. Or he leans more into the supernatural and makes a movie with like the same kind of we're going to it's either like we're going to another world like Children of Chase Lost Voices, or it's just like there is no Earth. It's just going to be an entire like fantasy world that he's gonna make. He's gonna make his own version of Nausicaa or Princess Mononoke. I feel like something like that, because he like you said, he clearly has a style and like favorite elements that he likes to use, but I don't know how many more times I can see the next Shinkai movie be about two teens who fall in love with each other in Japan, but then there's some supernatural bullshittery going on, like 3 times in a row for like and like a thematic trilogy is cool, but like 4 times in a row, I don't know. I'm gonna be skeptical at that point.
To me, it all hinges on the execution and specifically what each new film brings to the table. Because, admittedly, I watched all 3 of those movies, Your Name, Weathering with You, Suzume, in pretty close proximity, and did not feel tired of I did not feel at all that it was getting even remotely stale. And the reason why is because, I see that as like the bare bones structure upon which a masterpiece like Weathering with You can be built. And,
But
I
what
I
is
enjoy
it worth
that.
mentioning that we both love Weathering with You so much and agree it's like a near perfect or just flat out a masterpiece? Has he already made the masterpiece from these themes?
Well, I mean, there's always a chance for another masterpiece, because what Weathering with You does to make it a masterpiece, I mean, it's partially derived from that premise. How could it not be? But there's so much of it that you can strip away from that premise and still, it's new stuff built on top of this core idea of relationship that is threatened by, it's raining all day and you got weather girls.
Yeah, but has he already peaked with that kind of like vessel for storytelling with Weathering with You? Because we both love it, and we both like we mentioned in the Weathering with You podcast, it is just Your Name but better, because it takes all of what made Your Name good and then like fixes almost all of its problems, like the weak side cast, and now there's a fleshed out, developed side cast that have like distinct personalities, and you get a feel for their stories, even if some of them are briefer than others.
I think the idea that Shinkai has peaked is kind of depressing, so I don't want to buy into it because I'm a
I'm not
Shinkai
saying the man
fan.
is I'm not saying the man has like peaked as a whole. I'm saying has he peaked in the specific style of telling his stories with the relationship, the fatalized distance, and the supernatural elements
Well, there's no way to
like
tell.
trilogy.
I think there's no way to tell yet. If he has a fourth one in him, it's a matter of actually watching it and seeing like, okay, what does it do differently? How does it convey its themes? I wouldn't even mind necessarily a more straightforward telling of it, so long as the characters are phenomenal and the story is told as well as it can be. You know, well,
How would you define a straightforward telling of it? Because outside, like
well, Your
Suzume is
Name
kind
kind
of
of is
pretty
the
high
straightforward
concept.
telling of it. I think. If you just
Your Name. Well, I guess that is pretty right.
it's
Yeah,
got
yeah.
twists and
Suzume is a little
turns, but if you
wackier.
strip that away, Your Name is like if you strip all the twists and turns away, Your Name is at its core just love, and then it gets removed, and then they get it back. And that's the core of what Shinkai films thus far have been.
At the time of us recording this, Shinkai's next movie, which he is no doubt working on, hasn't been announced yet. But I for one am hoping that if he does, well, not if, when he does, his next movie is a little more original, because I don't think these three movies are exact like carbon copies of each other, but I do see where some people are coming from when he's reusing aspects of the elements of his movies, whereas the themes that he's telling are slightly different, and the end goals of each movie are different.
I mean, I get on a cognitive level finding the three movies stale, but I also just also simultaneously don't get it at all because I don't feel that
Well,
way the
like
slightest.
in in like I could rewatch Weathering with You like endlessly. Your Name I could like turn on every now and then. Suzume is gonna be like, I have the least drive to
I will
rewatch that one of the
absolutely rewatch
three.
Suzume. Bro,
Well,
I'm gonna get that on Blu-ray.
it might come out on 4K Ultra. Oh, I don't know if you have a 4K player. I'd guess
I
not.
think I think we have a
Do you have
4K
a
TV now. I'm
well,
not
no,
actually
not a
sure.
4K. Do you have a 4K disc player?
That I am not sure about.
Because the only one I have in my house is my PS5.
Well, time to get a PS5.
Unironically, it's pretty fun. Um, I guess that, do we have any like anything else we want to say about this one? Any like closing remarks for is any final determinations on it? Is Shinkai just making the same movie over and over?
I think the guy is still finding ways to voice the feelings in his heart in different ways and like trying to make the message clearer each time, even though paradoxically Suzume is perhaps the most thematically muddled movie he's done since Children of Chase Lost Voices, although even that was like very very clear with its messaging, just conveyed it horrendously, whereas Suzume is like the most confused thematically of all his
But is able to
films.
tell. Yeah, it's yeah, you actually put it in a really good way. Children Chase Lost Voices is like straightforward with its themes. It just executes them the worst possible way, whereas Suzume is very confused about its themes, but executes them probably best, at least best way possible for how confusing and how many he like juggles and stacks on top
Nah.
of each other.
I don't even think it stacking the themes on top of each other is the issue, because I mean you can like
Well,
there are
maybe
stories I can
less,
think of that
maybe
have a
less of
bunch of
stacking on top of each
themes.
other, more like just jamming them together, like like a game of plinko.
I mean, I get where you're coming from. The themes absolutely do not coalesce into a cohesive whole, but I feel like that does fall a lot on the way they're each. I think it's less an issue of putting in all of the themes and more of an issue of conveying them poorly. Kind of like Children from Chainsaw's Voices, but to a lesser extent.
Yeah, if Children Chainsaw's Voices had one ingredient that ended up being half baked, whereas this one felt more like he had too many ingredients that he was somehow able to cook them each enough, but not like enough to be well done.
Yeah, that is a fairly cogent way of putting it. Although I'd argue the too many ingredients is only cogent. Did I say that like a bunch of times?
No, that's the first time I've ever heard you say the word cogent.
Oh.
I didn't know that even was a word.
And God, I forgot. Okay, now I remember. And now I forgot again.
Well, if you forgot, it must not have been that important.
Well, there you go. Overall, watch my Suzume video. It's probably out by the time you're getting this. Meanwhile, the bagel of the current era has a lot of editing in his future. An absurd amount.
Yeah, I mean, all you have to do to edit this once I send the audio over, you just have to literally just slap the footage onto it.
See, that's the same thing with the Patreon rants, but have I gotten around to those yet?
I suppose I could have slap the footage on myself, and then it's the issue then would be though is how would I send the video over to you? Because I think the final video. Yeah, well, but the file size, I think it'll cap for because we're talking video.
I could still. I mean, it's easy to edit. I'm just not sure when I'll get around to it.
Yeah,
I'll
just be sure to.
Depends on how quickly I can get the Suzume video edited. I'll put it that way. If I have extra time, I'm sure I can jam it in there.
Oh, you know who else has extra time? The parents and school districts of Florida and Wisconsin is what I would say if they had time to spare to actually read Assassination Classroom before they removed it from their libraries.
So this is it's making the rounds nowadays as the hottest news. So some school, I don't remember where.
I have it here from the ANN article. Gifford Middle School in Florida and Elmbrook School District in Wisconsin.
And they said, you see that manga series with the smiling alien on it? Well, you see, the teachers are shooting, or rather, the students are shooting their teacher with guns that don't actually have real bullets in them, but guns. And that's bad. That's teaching... that's making school shooters out of kids. That's very harmful for their fragile mental state.
Hey man, we don't know how many school shootings Death Note could have inspired, but we don't know how many it couldn't not have either, so there you go.
I mean, in general, my take on media is that if you read Assassination Classroom, see the students shooting their teacher and say, I should do that, you were messed up far before you read Assassination Classroom.
Yeah, ass class is not the thing that pushed you over the edge. You are probably going to shoot up a school regardless.
If that's gonna push you over the edge, you could like be walking home from school one day and like a bird takes a shit on your head and that's your breaking point.
Then you recreate that. You know that one video game that was really controversial like last decade called Hatred?
I think I remember it.
It's the one with like the isometric shooter. It's like you literally just play as a psychopath that just goes around and kills everyone with a shotgun.
Oh no, it's gonna corrupt everyone. Oh no.
Yeah, it's just so dumb. Like all you have to do is read like the first few chapters of Ass Class to be like, oh wait, this teacher is actually a genetically modified super alien with tentacles, who's a smiley face emoji octopus who can fly at Mach 20 speeds.
Well, I think it's less even about the messaging of the series. Well, I mean, it's partially that, but I don't think any amount of reading the manga would have convinced them. Because as soon as they saw a gun and that there's occasionally sexual humor in the book, they just went. Their brain shut off. They went into anaphylactic shock and they said, "This is bad. This is real bad. There's guns and sex. That's two things that are very bad. I can't have any of my kids looking at that, despite the fact that it's a middle school." Dude, in eighth grade, To Kill a Mockingbird was required reading for our class, bro. That
Yep.
is way worse than
And
anything in Assassination Classroom.
It has been a while since I've read To Kill a Mockingbird, but I'm pretty sure at one point, Scout is depicted holding a gun, right? Because isn't she like hunting or something? Like
It
maybe
has
she
been a while. I have not read To Kill a Mockingbird since eighth grade.
It's same, but I'm pretty sure there's at least one moment where like one of like the kids, either Scout or Gem, or depicted holding a gun. I know for a fact that their dad Atticus was, but yeah, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like I mean, I get the reason, like the stupid reason that it's depicting middle schoolers with guns and knives, even though they're not like shooting real bullets, they're shooting little BBs, and their knives are made of like a
they're
rubber,
literally rubber.
rubble
Rubble.
knives. Yeah, so, but like, hey, maybe that requires a little more context, and we just can't afford to, actually pay someone or have someone in the board to read through the book, because I hate saying this. Like, there's a part of me that hates saying this because I don't want to believe it, and I fear that once I, like, age 20 to 30 years, it could be used against me too, but, like, is this just, like, boomer shit? It's just like a generational gap that their brains are like if you once you like get to be a certain age, do you just like are not able to take in context or like be able to be willing to understand different things, like things that you like are outside of your norm of everyday life or the cultural zeitgeist, like anime or manga?
I think it comes from their upbringing of, way back in. Granted, I'm young as hell, so I'm saying this based off of like very limited knowledge. Take this with like about
you
a
and
dozen
I are
grains of salt.
But yeah, you're a Zoomer. I am a like borderline millennial Zoomer, like right on that little needle's edge of millennial and Zoomer.
Yeah, but from what I can glean, 1960s America or whatever, however far back you go, was very concerned with like this clean image of the nuclear American religious household, and media sort of reflected that. And so anything outside of that, to some people who grew up in that time, is goes strictly against their ideology. If you're a Christian, for example, not necessarily all Christians, because obviously that's a huge spectrum of people that you cannot make an overgeneralization about. But depending on which part of the church you're in, a piece of media depicting sexual humor and making sexual references isn't the greatest. You want to sponge that away from society. Whereas, a degenerate such as I would be like, nah, we need more of that.
Yeah. I can somewhat understand the like from I say this not to like to play to their defense, but like to be like when they talk about the sexual content, even though ass classes, from what I remember, I've only seen like half of season 1, so I'm just going based off my knowledge of that, because I'm positive that whatever they depict in the anime, they depict in the manga, and I don't think they like censor too much of it. I remember the lewdest thing from that series is the episode where they introduce Yelovich, and she there's like it's implied that she's getting diddled by Koro Sensei, but in actuality it's like more it's more vague. Like he apparently just gives her like a massage at supersonic speed, but then there's like the one little throw like offshoot line, which is like, and that's not to mention all the things that he did with his tentacles.
I mean, even that's just a straight up joke. Although Irina Sensei as a character is probably something they'd also find objectionable because she's a pedophile.
She is big boobed and has her tits out a lot. Not bare, but very busty. Like that top is fit to burst.
Yeah, and I guess my entire opinion is you can't cleanse the world. There are way worse things out there than Assassination Classroom, and you can't keep I guess the younger generation, you can't keep it away from them forever. And Assassination Classroom isn't even that edgy. Bro, they hold guns, but they're shooting like pellets that damage only the alien. Like it's not even that out there.
Yeah, the point that I was gonna make was that there's some slightly risque elements in Ass Class, which is just like, you know, a Japanese thing. Like where do we draw the line though for like what about other manga? Because there's My Hero Academia. While it is not really known for having fan service, because it ultimately kind of doesn't. There are just like it's few and far between. It does sometimes depict its characters. Like there's a scene in the manga like this in around season 3 where there's just like one panel of the girls in a hot spring, and you see their naked bodies, but you don't see any genitalia, you don't see any boob. You just like see one of them sitting on a rock, and they're like all the naughty bits are perfectly censored.
They're censored? How lame.
I know, right? So I'm willing to bet that because we probably would have heard this cause a stink too, given how I would say it's not a crazy statement to say My Hero Academia is bigger than Ass Class.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's gonna fight you on that one.
Yeah, so why hasn't My Hero been banned from these libraries either?
And I think it's just not as upfront with its objectionable content. Although, to be fair, calling anything in Ass Class objectionable is a stretch. But
and hey, there's fighting between students. Yeah, there's a moment where two students are just straight up beating each other up. What if that encourages students to fight each other, or like they get into fights with their bullies?
Are we gonna go back to the days when a man and a woman being in bed together fully clothed is risque?
Did you know there was a time in television where you just weren't allowed to say the word pregnant?
Wait, really?
Yeah,
that's so random.
Yeah, it was decades ago, but you straight up couldn't say pregnant.
For the people on Yahoo Answers, they're geniuses at going around 19 whatever hundreds television restrictions. Madame, it seems you are pregnant.
they pregnant.
Oh my lord, you are pregnant.
They had to use terminology like having a bun in the oven, phrases like that.
Bro, you're cooking. You're cooking something there. I'll let you cook.
Also, like the last little thing that I will talk about this before we move on to the last topic is banning books is like the worst thing. Like, I don't get it. Like, obviously, for materials that are like way more violent or like have a lot more curses that are like controversial, like obviously there shouldn't be any porn books in middle school libraries. There shouldn't be probably what's his name, the guy who writes all those spy books. There's like a whole series, like anything with like too violent shouldn't be in a middle school. we know that Ass Class isn't that violent and its themes are not like inducive to school shooters, but when you make a big stink out of banning books like this, like publicly, which might not have been their intention, but surely they had to have known that this would be inevitable if they had any amount of foresight whatsoever. It brings me back to like this one little phrase that one of my I guess heroes could be a apt term, Yahtzee from Zero Punctuation say, try banny thing, make people wanty thing more.
I did think of that as soon as I read the article. Like, I was grinning at how many new middle schoolers would read Pete.
How many Florida and Wisconsin middle schoolers you think were like now more interested to check out Ass Class specifically because their school came down from on high and said, "Hey, this book is a no-no book."
I bet
and
a
now
lot
like,
of
well,
them.
what's so bad about it that there has to be a no-no book?
I mean, the funniest part of it is that Assassination Classroom is literally a series about a teacher who's just real good. Just a real good teacher who knows how to raise his students. So
he's really forging connections with his students and making them into, because they're like the shitters of society. They've been unfairly deemed so by their school system and society as a whole. And then Core Sensei's being a total bro and helping them out, while at the same time being like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm gonna train one of you guys to kill me.
And that's why it's so great, and that's why it's so ironic that the teachers are being like, bro, let's just ban this. Well, also the parents, but...
And I also feel that it's worth mentioning, I haven't gotten to the end of Ass Class, so I don't know if he's like ever intended on making good on his promise. I don't think that he was, but he did... Koro Sensei does say at the very beginning of the story, like, if you don't kill me by the end of, like, X date, I will blow up the planet. And none of your military can possibly stop me, so...
Alright, so you are unspoiled then. Cherish that. Never spoil yourself on Ass Class.
Using my media literacy, I'm going to assume that it's not going to be his true intention, but he does blow up the moon as a warning. Just as a display of he goes full Eggman, he pisses on the moon. Yeah, to be like, yeah, I'm not fibbing, by the way. So it's they have good reason in the context of the story to want to kill him.
Neon, someday we gotta make Ass Class a podcast show. You need to watch.
I would be down for that. I do have it on my bucket list to watch every Shonen Jump anime.
Assassination Classroom literally has my favorite plot of any series ever. I'm just gonna lay that down right now. You gotta experience it someday.
That's very bold. Like plot as in story, or just plot as in like. Okay, that's still a very bold claim, because I'm a big narrative boy.
It has such a well-told narrative, and you don't even realize how well-told it is until you're well into the second season.
I guess they'll have to put a pin in that and save it for another day. So maybe one day if the people demand it enough.
All right, quick, demand it in the comments. But you want to know what Nintendo be demanding of the people who jailbreak their consoles? $10 million.
That's what. Yeah, so this story's been making the rounds. It's been like the whole story about the infamous Gary Bowser, who's a 51-year-old, I think, Canadian who hacked his switch. He's been hacking switches for years, but the Johnny Long Arm of the Law finally caught up to him, and Nintendo was like, go to jail. You do not pass go. You are not collecting $200. In fact, we're gonna collect $200 for you for the rest of your fucking life, kid. He recently got out of jail. I think he was originally meant to serve a 3-year sentence, but he got out on a good behavior bond. But according to articles, and according to the news, Gary Bowser has to pay $10 million in damages to Nintendo for the rest of his life. And the way they're going to go about collecting it is that Nintendo is allowed to take 25 to 30% of his gross monthly income, so that way, he isn't just like every single penny he makes is going directly to Nintendo to the point where he like can't pay for a place to live or pay for food or water, like utilities or anything like that. But about 1/4 to 30% of all of his money that he makes in a month, he has to pay to Nintendo or he's going to jail.
I'd just kill myself at that point.
Yeah. Like, yeah, he's like fucked for life. Cause I did the math. Let's ignore the fact that he's 51, and let's also ignore the fact that now that he has this, is this a felony?
I think sure.
With a punishment this bad, sure, any jail time, surely yes, right?
Is jail? I misspelled it. Jailbreaking a console a felony in Japan?
Well, I don't know. Well, this isn't a Japan thing. This is an American thing.
Oh, in America?
Or at least North America, because
America.
I'm pretty sure he got arrested in American prison. I have the article in front of me right here. Let's see. He was part of Team Executor.
It's not saying whether or not it's a felony. It's just telling me it's illegal.
I don't know. Well, I guess regardless of what that is, it's not going to look good on your job application to be like, oh yeah, I served jail time recently. So what he now has to do, like, let's assume that he, despite all of that going against him, that he's able to land a job with like $100,000 year salary, like 6 figures.
Good salary.
Yeah, good salary, right? That's pretty good for like a 51-year-old fresh out of jail. All right, now divide that by 12. That's about $8,333 a month that he makes. Now let's assume that Nintendo is only taking the low end of the gross monthly income from this. Let's say they're only going to take 25%. So 25% of $8,333 is about $2,083. So now we do some simple math. We need 10 million, right? 10 million divided by 2083 is 4,800. That's 4,800 months it would take for him to pay off that 10 million, or to put it in more simpler terms, 400 years. Quite literally 4 lifetimes. He could have 3 generations of kids, and they could work like $100,000 year salary from the day they pop out of the womb to the day they die and they make it to year 100 of their lifespan. It would take like 4 generations before that gets paid off.
Bro's gonna be old as Relicanth before he sees the end of his debt.
Yeah, well, straight up, he's just not gonna be able to pay it.
Well, yeah. There's literally no way.
He's just going to pay money out the nose to Nintendo for the rest of his life until he just croaks.
Which is why I would self-croak.
I croak myself. And it's how does a man live like that? That's just a permanent handicap on your life.
It's such an extreme measure to take for what is ultimately not even that bad of a crime. Like, okay, bro jailbreaked some. I don't think that's the right whatever tense, but whatever. Jailbroke.
Not necessarily jailbreak. Yeah, hacking switches and pirating games.
Well, hacking them so that they can play pirated games is what the main concern is, as well as software that was never intended to run on the Switch. But mostly, allowing for piracy, essentially. I mean, that's not even really that bad. I mean, you can argue, okay, it's stealing from Nintendo. But bro,
yeah, it is, at the end of the day, a crime.
But
but
bro didn't murder someone.
yeah, like, he's not paying $10 million to the family of someone he like whose kid they murdered, and they're being like, all right, you want to like go back into society, you have to pay this family like money for the rest of your life. And this is a scenario we're just making up because realistically you'd probably just get jail for life, and that's probably what the family would prefer if we're talking like the concept of justice. But like,
nah, I'd want
where is
money. I'm just a filthy capitalist. Me want money.
if someone killed your kid, you just want money.
I'd ring them
money
for
would
all
fill
they're
the
worth.
void. You'd let them back out in the street so long as they give you 25% of their income for the rest of your life.
Heck yeah.
I mean, I guess that would be a power move. I don't know how I'd feel about
hey,
it in regards to my dead
You
kid.
gotta respect the grind set.
Yeah, according to the article from Nintendo Life that was written Monday the 17th, so like 10 days ago at the time of this recording, he's only paid off $175 of his 10 million. So, you know, about 399.9 years to go. If that.
How wonderful to be a Gary Bowser right now. Yeah, it's just way too well. See, the thing is, the reason why he has such an absurd punishment is because Nintendo was like, let's make an example out of him.
Yeah,
we gotta make an
Nintendo's
example.
Nintendo's lawyer literally straight up came out in a quote and said, "This is a very significant moment for us. It's the purchase of video games that sustains Nintendo and the Nintendo ecosystem, and it is the games that make the people smile. It's for that reason that we do all we can to prevent Nintendo games and Nintendo systems from being stolen. We're gonna use this guy to send a message to other Switch hackers. Like, you want to steal our shit? Be prepared to pay us like for like generations of time. Pay us for centuries." Cause like you know damn well that Gary Bowser and his team executor did not cause $10 million in damages to the company. Nintendo wipes their ass with $10 million.
They're like a mega corporation. Bro did not.
The Mario movie's about to cross $1 billion, and you know Nintendo's getting that like a big cut of that.
I know emulation is legal, but like pretending it isn't for a second, bro. Imagine me getting fined for the rest of my life because I emulated Mario 2 for the Nintendo Entertainment System on my laptop.
Man, that one I understand. That's game of the year for like every year in a row. Super Mario Brothers 2.
It is a good game. I have in fact beaten it. On original hardware, Nintendo, don't kill me.
Did you play it on an NES?
All right, this is between you and me, Neon. Nintendo, you're not listening to this. In Minecraft, yeah, I emulated it.
I mean,
and I would do it again. It's actually legal, but
I mean, hey, they're still able to make money off of it, be through NSO Online. So the Nintendo might send the ninjas after you yet.
Oh no.
So basically the point of this story is that this is fucked up. Like, even if the guy, you know, did do he's not he's not a good person. He did in fact do a crime. I can't say it, we can't call it cruel and unusual because like he's not serving jail time and he's not being
I'd call it
tortured
cruel
or
and unusual.
Well,
I mean,
in the terms of like he's not being given the fucking death penalty for pirating
true.
video games.
I can't
like,
wait till Nintendo gets enough power to do that. I wonder if they would.
Honestly, I would not be surprised. Dude, you know about the Point Crow situation, right?
I see the guy who was modding
like the guy
Zelda
who modded
YouTube
Breath of the
videos.
Wild, and then his channel got
that situation
suspended.
Yeah. Wait,
yeah,
like
dude,
suspended?
they'll. I'm pretty sure.
Last I checked, it was still up.
Maybe just got struck.
He got a lot of strikes, a lot of videos taken down.
Okay. Well, yeah, and he's a YouTuber, man. That's like a tantamount to ending a man's career. That's basically Nintendo coming over to where you work and saying you're fired, and then you being like, I don't even work for you guys. Like, nope, you're fired.
Bro,
You're fired from this job that's unrelated to us.
Imagine if I crossed the wrong anime company. That's just how messed the copyright system is right now. Not just on YouTube, but in general.
I'm gonna say this just because that's the first thing that popped in my head. Let's pretend that Kadokawa is the license holder for Onimai. Let's pretend that Kadokawa comes knocking on.
Kadokawa
the
is
door
actually the
Crunchy
license
Bagels.
owner for Onimai, so that's
all right.
convenient.
So I got my intuition is right yet again. I'm never wrong about anything ever. Mr. Kadokawa himself comes knocking on the Crunchy Bagels door, and he's like, hey, cool video that jump started your YouTube career at such a young age, that you have so much promise and potential. Die right now. You are not allowed to turn YouTube into a career anymore because we said so.
Oh yeah? Well, take this. I've been studying jujutsu for 5 years and I can literally kick your ass right now. Send your entire legal team and I will kill you in martial arts combat.
And at which point they just detain you.
and then I'm like kicking, you're like, no, don't do it. Your officer, sir, the threats weren't of violence. It was a meme, a social experiment.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's just kind of fucked up that even like for the rest of his life, even like 1 million in damages, like would be definitely more than he could have possibly have created, but at least that's a little bit more manageable. At least that would only be like the rest of his life and would be less of a gross monthly income to take out, probably.
And at least, I mean, 1 million would still be bad. What amount would be? Well, I guess that's really difficult to come to a consensus on, but I think what anyone who has morals can agree is 10 million is life ruining, and you shouldn't have your life ruined because you let some people pirate Nintendo games on their Switch.
Like at that point, I'd just be like, I'd take the jail time. Like if I could like take the jail time and be like, hey, can I just go to jail instead of paying this fine for like 3 to 5 years? I at least like, yeah, it would suck because I'd be in jail, but if
I mean, depending
I'm not saying
on
that
the
there
jail
has to
you go
be
to, you'd have to pay 10 million for therapy, but
I was gonna say, like, not to say that he should have had to have gone to jail for like that long regardless, but like if we like in the scenario that he has to either spend 3 to 5 years in jail or pay 10 million to Nintendo for the rest of his life, I'd just take the jail time. If those are my only two options, I'd be like, this is less like detrimental to my life in the long run.
I'd probably choose the jail time as well, because at least that's like, it's like ripping off a Band-Aid versus pricking yourself with a sewing needle every day.
Yeah,
for the
death
rest
by
of your
1,000
life.
by a million paper cuts.
Yeah, it's like, at least you get it over with.
Yeah, hey, you could do a lot of writing in jail.
Yeah, on my cell walls, but
all fun and no play makes Eva a soggy bagel, a chewy bagel.
Yeah, I would just be damp and rotting in prison without an out. Although I guess I could, they have
Maybe
prison
you could request a
economies.
typewriter.
I could like, I could find the one guy with like a bunch of paper, and then I don't know. I have like the Ritz crackers, and he's like, "Give me the Ritz crackers," and we do a bargain. And I like write in comically small handwriting in order to get as much out of the page as possible. I could write my new masterpiece. Maijo would tremble.
But I think that brings us to the end of the first episode of Castaway Anyway. So bye.
Sayonara.